Hi guys, I hope you all are doing great. So, in today's topic, we are going to study about the scene of crime prince. Okay, so as we have already discussed, what is scene of crime? So, scene of crime is a place where the crime have been committed. So, that thing is we call them as scene of crime or crime scene, right? So, whatever the prints which we can find near the scene of crime are known to be scene of crime prints. Scene of crime prints. Fingerprints are unique patterns left by the friction ridges. So, as I said, there are the kind of hills and valleys on our finger tips and on the planar surface of the feet and on our palms. So, the upper hill surface is an elevated surface is known as ridges. We have already talked about it. So, ridges. So, those ridges make unique patterns which differ from one individual to other individual, right? So, fingerprints are the unique patterns left by the friction ridges. So, they help in identification of suspects or the victims. So, as I said, the prints which will be founded near the scene of crime, then if we collect those fingerprints, then they can help us to identify that to which individual those fingerprints belong to, whether of the suspects or whether of the victims. Then there are three main types of prints, that is visible prints, plastic prints and latent prints. So let us know more detail about what are they and what examples can come under that. Then visible prints. So in the name itself you can see the visible in the sense which we can see with our naked eyes. Okay, so they are also called as patent prints. So these visible prints are formed when fingers are contaminated with the substances and then they touch a surface. Okay, so definition: prints clearly seen without any enhancement. Enhancement in the sense when we enhance a fingerprint, then only we can see the fingerprint. But here we don't need any enhancement because they are already clearly visible to us. Okay, so this says that whenever our fingers come in contact with any kind of substances, let us take an example. You have touched a wet paint and then with the same hand, with that painted hand only, you are touching any wall. Then what happens? Of course, on the wall you can see the your hand print, right? Like it's clearly visible that some kind of print is there on the wall because you have whatever your hand is, it is contaminated with some of the substance, and then you're touching the surface, other surface, that is wall. Then what happened? You can easily visible the print. So that is known as visible print, and this is the definition of that. So examples for the visible prints is example like blood, ink, paint, dust, grease. Okay, so yeah, blood. If any person hand is covered with blood and he touches any kind of wall or any kind of substances or like chair or table, of course the print will be left behind intact on the walls and on the tables. Then we can it can be easily visible to our naked eyes that some kind of print is formed, that too the hand was covered with the blood or whatever the ink is present on that. Okay, so examples are blood, ink, paint, just now what we have discussed about it, dust and grease. So where can we find visible prints? They can be found in many cases such as violent crimes and burglary. Okay, there are some of the other crimes included, but these are the found in the common cases. So what is the collection method for this is, first of all is photography. So whatever print it may be, first of all we will take the photography with a high resolution camera. Okay, we won't use normal cameras for the photography thing. We have separate kind of cameras with different kinds of lens and resolutions, and the photography can be done with the different kinds of angles. Like the photography will taken at the angle of 45 degrees or 90 degrees depending on the angle which they have to take the photograph. So photograph with the high resolution cameras, then lifting with tape if possible. Okay, if possible you can lift it with the tape, and I have shown this what lifting with tape of fingerprint in my older video. Maybe you can check it out later. Then preserve surface if movable, means if it is on a movable kind of substance, like if the print is printed on any kind of small box or something, yeah, of course it's movable, so we can preserve the whole substance where the fingerprint have been formed. So this is about the visible prints in the examples and collection and where commonly they are seen. Then plastic prints. So plastic prints are also called as impression prints. So they are 3D ridge impressions left on soft material. They are easily visible without chemical treatment. Okay, so they are also called as impression prints because because 3D ridge impressions are left on the soft materials, it seems. So let us take an example. Example you can take as a soap, or I want to take a general example, like if you are chewing any kind of chewing gum and if you remove it from your mouth, of course it's kind of disgusting, but anyway, and if you are keep placing your any finger on it and pressing it towards the inside, then you can see that the part will be towards inside, making kind of a concave shape, right? And whatever the print, the ridges pattern, whatever is there on your finger will be formed on the chewing gum. So what happens, that is a 3D ridge impression left on the soft material. So this is my own example. So after read this, that was the only thing which I got in my mind, so I'm just saying this. So yeah, there will be some kind of cases where the not the victims, the suspect may do this kind of mistake and they can get the fingerprint caught in this kind of things. So there can be chances, I don't know, but this is a called as impression prints where the 3D ridge impressions left on the soft material. So it is easily visible. Yeah, of course, if you do that thing, it can be easily visible without any chemical treatment. You can identify that it's a fingerprint. We have a rich patterns in it. Okay, then what happens? We can easily collect it. So yeah, I'll tell about the collection methods in the next slide. So examples like soap, wax like even for your candles and everything, and butter, wet paint, clay and tar. Okay, so that is found mostly in the cases like household theft and outdoor crime scenes too. Collection photography with scale. So as I said, let us take the same example, the chewing gum one. So if you find any kind of chewing gum in any kind of scene of occurrence or scene of crime, and whatever the same situation which I have said right now, like on the chewing gum if there is any kind of fingerprint is there, then what they will do is, okay, I'll just do the diagram thing. Okay, let us think that this is a chewing gum and this is the, as I said, when you're pressing it with your finger, it will make a concave shape and you have a design, or sorry, a pattern, ridge patterns like this. Then what they will do is, they will do the photography with keeping a scale beside it, measuring the size of it. Okay, and then they will casting, they can be do casting also, like by using the plaster of Paris also. They will just pour it by mixing, having the mixture of the plaster of Paris, they will pour it, by which we can get the correct 3D impression of the fingerprint. Okay, then preserve the original object if it is portable. That's it. Okay, so this whatever is there technique where we'll keep the scale beside it and then taking a photograph, and again if there is a use of pouring the plaster of Paris and then taking out, it can be done for the footprints also. Okay, you have usually maybe have seen any kind of movies or anything, but if there is a footprint found in any kind of mud case or etc., and if it is made a 3D impression, like the footprint have made some kind of certain height, Then what they will do is they will pour the plaster of Paris. They'll make the mixture of the plaster of Paris and pour into it, and they'll keep the scale, and then they have a photo shoot also of that, like measuring the size and the height of that. Okay, so then they, after it gets cooled down and everything, then they will remove that molded object, and where you can get the perfect shape and size of that footprint also. Okay, it's applicable for even for the footprints too. Then coming to the latent prints. So they are invisible or barely visible to our naked eye. Definition: prints formed by sweat, oils, amino acids require special techniques for detection. So latent prints are basically the invisible prints where we cannot see with our naked eyes. Okay, normally we cannot see them, and they are formed by sweats or oils. So as I have explained that our skin has sweat pores, even our fingers, they all have small sweat pores, right? So through that, where the sweat will be coming out or oozing out. Okay, then what happens, and when you are having sweat on your fingers and then you touch any kind of surfaces, then that sweat will help the ridges to be formed on the surface without knowingly. So every contact leaves a trace, even knowingly or without knowingly, right? So like that. So the prints which are formed by sweat. So when, if there are print formed by the sweat, can you see with your naked eyes? Of course no, we can't see that. We can't know that their fingerprint have been imprinted on that surface. So that's why there are special techniques for the detection. So isn't it amazing? Like, we don't know whether the fingerprint is formed on the surface or not, but even though we can detect the fingerprint with the help of special techniques. Really, that's amazing. Let us know how it is done. So, latent fingerprints, examples and collections. So, examples, they are found on the glass, plastic, paper, weapons. Okay, even on the weapons also, when there is the case of any kind of firearms, and you have found the weapon, or okay, even though it is a firearms, or even if it is in a kind of weapon like knife or everything, you can't see the fingerprints with our normal eyes. So what they will do is use the special techniques and collect the fingerprint from the weapon, by which way we can easily detect the suspect. Okay, they are found on the glass, plastic, paper or weapons. So they are found most in the burglary or theft or homicide cases. Yeah, as I said, in the murder cases, when there is a use of weapon, and in those cases we can find this latent prints. So collection, powders, so black, magnetic or fluorescent, or we have chemical methods, ninhydrin, iodine and cyanoacrylate. Then alternate light sources in photography. So powder, black powder, maybe you have know what is this black powder experiment. Maybe you have done this in your college things. See, in forensic, this black powder, whatever is there, this is used for the developing and preserving the latent fingerprints. Okay, on whatever the surfaces are there, like the glass and plastic. So we will have a brush and the black powder. We will sprinkle it on the glass or on the paper, and then we will normally swipe it with a brush, and afterwards you can see that whatever the latent fingerprint was there, it will be formed, and you can easily clearly see the ridges and patterns of the fingerprint. Okay, so this is about the black powder. Okay, so that's what about the black powder. And coming to the chemical methods, ninhydrin. So this also maybe you have done in your college things. So what is this? Is a ninhydrin is a well-known chemical. So what it has a potential to detect the latent fingerprint and make them to visible for our eyes. So when a fingerprint is deposited on any kind of surface like glass or plastics, then the amino acids will primarily from the eccrine glands on the fingerprints are left on the shape of the ridges of the prints. Okay, so with the help of this chemical method, we can detect the ridge patterns in matter. Okay, then we have alternate light sources and photography, which is common. So these are the three types of fingerprints which can be found near the scene of crime. Okay, so I hope you have liked this video, and if you have found it informative, then share it with your forensic science friends. And thank you. Please like and subscribe it.